Rollin on the River, the Chattahoochee River by Josh Stephen, a field research paper for environmental science. The Chattahoochee, river of painted rocks, runs for 430 miles through Georgia, Alabama, and Florida. As its Indian name indicates, it is a river filled with rocks, and its banks are marked with rock formations too. Since 1978, 13 miles of the Chattahoochee that run through Georgia have been established as the Chattahoochee National Recreation Area, providing one of the finest recreational opportunities in any major American city. The Chattahoochee River is home to many species of plants and animals, both indigenous and invasive. Human beings, too, have made a home near the Chattahoochee since before recorded history, and while the site is still a beautiful and popular recreation spot, the impact of both invasive species and the Atlanta population is taking a huge toll on the environment and the economy. The Chattahoochee River is one of the oldest and most stable river channels within the United States. Since it's essentially locked into place, flowing along the Brevard Fault Zone, it cannot meander and change its course over time like most rivers. The hydrologic cycle, a continuous transfer of water processes among the surface, ground, and atmospheric waters, provides the primary foundation for the Chattahoochee River. But the Brevard Fault Zone may be the Chattahoochee River's most important feature. Besides adding to the scenic beauty of the river, its rhythmically spaced parallel ridges control much of the Chattahoochee River's course. The rocky land provides the foundation of the Chattahoochee's dendritic or tree-like drainage pattern. Streams of water find their way through pathways of eroding rocks into the Apalachicola Flint-Chattahoochee system. There are many large rocks in and around the river. Rock formations along the riverside trails that are part of the recreation area form caves of various shapes and sizes. The riparian zone along the river is home to a great diversity of plants and animals. In the Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area, there are around 950 different plant species, 813 of which are native. There are many tall trees that provide shade for the site. Maple, beech, oak, and pine are the most populous trees. Some trees have large, bulbous epiphytes, non-parasitic plants to grow on other plants or trees for support. There are also many disease-ridden plants and trees. Many of the leaves along the trails of the Chattahoochee National Recreation Area have bacterial leaf spots and viral infections, which result in the formation of galls. These spots form when there are high temperatures and a high humidity, which is the norm in the Atlanta area. Though the trees are dense, the ground is still able to get sunlight, but there is plenty of shade that encourages ferns, algae, moss, and other shade-loving plants and fungi to grow. Pine cones and needles from the pines litter the ground, yet there is enough room in the forest of trees for ferns, bamboo, grasses, and flowers such as azaleas, trillium, scarlet sumac, cardinal flowers, trout lilies, and redbud. Many of these plants and flowers can be found growing on hills, from inside felled trees, and in between the many rocks along the banks of the river. The Chattahoochee River Basin is home to 9 state-threatened and endangered plant species. The forest is riddled with invasive species too. Golden bamboo is native to China and was first introduced into America in 1882 in Alabama. It is now common in Georgia too, along with other invasive plants. Kudzu, privet, and Japanese honeysuckle are 3 other examples of exotic species introduced along the Chattahoochee River. The Chattahoochee also serves as a permanent home to creatures that spend nearly all their time in the river's waters, and draws in an array of terrestrial animals that visit regularly for a variety of needs including food, shelter, and water. Around the Chattahoochee River there are many types of animals to see, from deer and bats to otters and salamanders. The many little holes on the trees indicate woodpeckers. There are 3 species of trout here: brook trout, rainbow trout, and brown trout, a native of Asia and Europe which was introduced to the U.S. in 1883. There are also a few invasive species around the area: Canadian geese, rice eel, cowbird, Asian clam, and the European starling. In the mid-1990s, the rice eel, also known as the Asian swamp eel, was introduced into the Chattahoochee Nature Center. The Asian clam, a native of Asia and Africa, was introduced in the U.S. in the 1920s and spread quickly to 38 states, including Georgia. Interestingly, the European starling was brought to Central Park in New York City in 1890 in an attempt to introduce all the birds found in Shakespeare's work to America. With its natural beauty and pleasant temperatures, the Chattahoochee National Recreation Area is a beautiful place for people to learn about and interact with nature in both forest and aquatic ecosystems. With around 5 miles of trails to enjoy, there are plenty of places and spaces for people to exercise, walk their pets, picnic, kayak, canoe, or simply relax. but the Chattahoochee has not simply been a place of recreation. Human beings have lived near the river for millennia. Since the time of the mastodon, humankind has lived along the banks of the Chattahoochee. The first Chattahoochee people erected large burial mounds near the river. Currently, over 25,000 archaeological sites have been recorded, with many times this number waiting to be discovered. The river has played an important role for Native Americans for at least 12,000 years. Cherokees, Creeks, and other Native American tribes relied on the Chattahoochee for food, water, and transportation. In the 15 and 1600s, thousands of Native Americans built cities along the river. The Cherokee and Creek used the river as a border, first between their nations, then between themselves and early settlers. For Europeans, the river became the road to settlement and trade. For the Spanish, in the early 1600s, the Chattahoochee became a trade route for establishing trade with the Creek Indians. When Europeans arrived, hundreds made their home along the river. In the early part of the 19th century, Native Americans moved or were forced out of the area. Notably, after Spain gave Florida to the U.S., the population along the Chattahoochee continued to grow. Steamboats took goods and people up and down the river, increasing all kinds of trade and industry. Railroads made Atlanta a key business center, diminishing the importance of the Chattahoochee. Until the middle of the 20th century, when rapid growth of the city made the need for the river as a prominent resource. But by then, the rapid population growth and accompanying poor city planning was destroying the river, its ecosystem, and the economy of the state. In early 1970s, people woke up to the responsibility of a beautiful national resource in their own backyard. Governor Jimmy Carter signed a state law into effect that protected the river and its surrounding land, turning 6,300 acres into a national park. In the 21st century, the Chattahoochee River, the United States' smallest river, provides water, electrical power, and recreation to the residents and visitors to the large metro area of Atlanta. The development of the areas surrounding the river, including the building of dams, has brought about big changes in the river and its ecosystem. In 1956, the Buford Dam was built, changing what was a warm water river into a cold water river. As a result, trout could flourish, as could other animals that could adapt to the colder temperatures. But other wildlife suited to warm water, including certain types of fish and mollusks, could no longer survive. With the rise in population, urbanization, and recreation in the area, pollution is a major issue for Chattahoochee River. The negative impact of human proximity and recreation is affecting both the safety of the environment and the economy of the people who surround it. 70% of Atlanta's drinking water comes from the Chattahoochee River. Yet the city of Atlanta so heavily pollutes its waters that the river becomes a wasteland. And according to the city, little can be done to prevent the pollution that costs Atlanta millions of dollars a year in EPA fines. Atlanta drops over 250 million gallons of wastewater per day into the Chattahoochee from antiquated sewage treatment plants. Because of all the issues that affect the Chattahoochee River, it has become one of the top endangered rivers in the country. The Chattahoochee River is a popular recreational area. Every year, thousands of visitors swim, boat, and fish in the river, resulting in greater levels of bacteria. And the trash and litter tossed into the river and along its banks is harmful to the river itself and to the animals that live in and near it. Plastic bottles, soda can rings, pet toys, etc. show signs of human presence and thoughtlessness and have been proven to damage animals as well as other parts of the ecosystem. The negative human impact in and along the Chattahoochee River is not only damaging nature, but hurting the economy of Georgia. In the 1990s, Atlanta paid millions of dollars in fines for polluting the Chattahoochee due to its sewer systems that couldn't keep up with population growth, urban runoff, and the incredible amount of trash and debris in the river. The high levels of pollution meant at one point that people could no longer enjoy the river as they once had. But that is changing. In recent years, Atlanta has developed cleanup programs, created greenways, and is providing for conservation initiatives to protect the Chattahoochee and surrounding lands. The Chattahoochee River has been flowing and bringing life to plants, animals, and people for thousands of years. But people have been destroying it, especially over the past couple of centuries through thoughtless use and misuse of this national resource. Though there are still dangerous threats to the river due to overdevelopment, poor infrastructures, and thermal pollution, people are still enjoying its beauty and its water. The Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area remains a popular picnic spot and boating area for families, a great fishing spot, and a popular field spot for school children in the Atlanta area. Field research continues to be done in and along the Chattahoochee in an effort to better understand its life and its threats. And with recent efforts to reduce pollution and increase environmental awareness, people, animals, and plants will continue to benefit from all this river offers as it keeps rolling along.